narrative shifts for each fighter from UFC 314. Starting off with Alexander Volkanovski, what was the narrative going into this fight? For even those that were picking Volk, at least what was the fear people had in their mind? Well, it was that, we want old school Volkanovski to be in there, but is he going to be the old school Volk, or is he going to show up the UFC 294 photo Volk? Right? The picture that everyone dreads when they see it. Even though Volk hasn't fought Islam Makhachev for over a year and a half, the dreaded 294 short notice fat Volk photo always looms over us whenever there's, a UFC free fight. They post Volkanovski and he's got like a cut on his lip and he's just looking like he had the worst weight cut in history. So you're already dreading that this is the Volk that could show up. And then they start posting the promos for Volkanovski. And dude, I'm telling you, tell me you're not getting freaking Mater vibes from fucking Cars. All right. They start playing this Western twang music. You could see dust balls freaking hurtling over the horizon and in a wasteland in the Midwest of Nevada. You guys corrected me. It was actually Doc Hudson. Volk is like, I've had setbacks. I've had my fair share of setbacks. They're basically giving Volkanovski the freaking Doc Hudson treatment. Like this old man hitting pads with Joe Lopez in the desert going freaking Doc Hudson mode. And you're already, face palming, thinking to yourself, oh, no, he's going to get KO'd, dude. He's going to get knocked out. And then on the walkout, Volkanovski doesn't have his team with him. So he's doing the walkout to land down under, and Joe Lopez isn't with him, and Craig Jones isn't with him, and it's already like, oh shit, man, he's already losing a little bit of aura. Dude, I was just so nervous. There was a narrative that maybe Volk wasn't going to be able to take a punch and was going to look a little bit old, and did the narrative shift? I think that as far as Volk's chin goes, I think it's clear that he can still take a shot, because if he couldn't take a shot, he would have gotten knocked out. He still, to me, does not have the same chin that he did in his prime. Some people are saying Volk's chin is the same it's ever been. Absolutely not. It's just a thing that I'm seeing when he's getting hit by regular shots. Back in the day, dude, Volk would fucking eat a flush Yair Rodriguez elbow when he was crashing in to shoot a takedown. There was a moment in the Ortega fight where Volkanovski was crashing forward and he ate an elbow against Ortega. No reaction whatsoever. No jitter to his step. He did about 10 jitterbugs in there. Okay, and people are saying, I think this may have been a prime Volkanovski. Still in his prime. No, he's not. And I think the reason why I want to say that is because, first off, let's talk about the narrative shift for people that were worried, including myself, because it's easy to just be like, well, a lot of people picked him, so there is no narrative shift, but there is a narrative shift, because we were all worried. Volk still has it. I was worried that UFC 294 Volk was going to show up, but Volk actually showed up, calm, cool, and collected, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee Volk, the one that we're used to seeing. And he showed layers, and he showed that he was still, even though he's looking to be a little bit declined, able to school the newer guard in the modern era, which is really impressive. But I think that people are sort of twisting the result with how Volkanovski really looked. Okay, the result is a 49-46 where Volk is winning the majority of the fight, 90% of it. And again, it is very impressive. And this is coming from, one of Volk's biggest fans. I'm a critic of this guy because I am a big fan of him, and I'm going to be totally brutally honest. But he looked smaller out there. He looked a little bit withered. And maybe that's just because he wanted to come into this camp really lean, because he took a lot of time off, and he said that he didn't want to feel heavy 4 weeks out, 5 weeks out, and start feeling light only 2 weeks out. He wanted to get light early on so he could get back that speed early, which would give him confidence in training camp. And he definitely came in lighter than he normally would. And so maybe that's why. Maybe Volkanovski lost a little bit of muscle in the process, which is why he may have looked a little bit weaker in the grappling exchanges, which is why he may have looked a little bit smaller out there. I get it, Diego Lopes is a big featherweight, but still, he didn't look like the same Volkanovski when it came to footwork. And I understand you can sit on the outside of Diego Lopes. As long as you're at kicking range, you're pretty safe. He's not going to come and gun you down like an Ilia Topuria. He sort of just waits for you to throw first in the pocket, and then he'll go. But Volkanovski seemed to be a little bit more flat-footed, okay? The footwork that I'm used to seeing in the Holloway fight, in the TKZ fight. And I know that if this was a TKZ in there, he would have gotten finished. Lopes is very tough. He's very durable. Just because Volk didn't knock him out doesn't mean he's not in his prime. But people are saying I'm wrong on this take. He looked a little bit weaker. He was reacting to punches that weren't big punches from Lopes. I know Lopes hits hard. He was doing jitterbugs to punches that were just grazing him sometimes. And again, he looked a little bit withered. His face is just looking older as well. And it's not a surprise. This guy is older, all right? It's not like he looks old. He is older. And it's showing a little bit, okay? But he still has it. He's still got it.
I'm sorry, mate. That ain't happening.
All right? Volk still has it. And I actually have thought a little bit about my take on the Evloev fight. I really do think that, yeah, he could probably beat Evloev, all right? I know that I said that I was a little bit afraid because Evloev can shoot a lot of takedowns. He has a great gas tank. And he's going to have the physicality, and that'll also, because of his wrestling, open up opportunities on the feet, whereas Volk's chin may be declined a little bit. And again, people were like, no, his chin is not declined at all. Just because he was in there with a heavy puncher that couldn't knock him out doesn't mean his chin isn't a little bit declined. Like, he still took the 2 KO losses, and in this fight, he took damage. He got dropped a couple times. I'm just seeing these things. Like, it's hard to explain, but he did look a little jittery in there when he was getting hit. But if he can school a guy like Diego Lopes that's that dangerous, and at the end of the fight when Volkanovski wouldn't slug with him, I guess some people were using that last 30 seconds, and that last 30 seconds kind of confused them as to what was actually happening throughout the whole fight, because 4 rounds of that fight was Volkanovski crashing into the pocket and slugging with Lopes. This was not Volk just kicking at range and jabbing at range the whole time. No, he was fucking in the pocket, testing Lopez's chin, putting his chin on a firing line. He did that about 20 times. So the fact that he could beat Lopes on the feet while doing the thing that I said he couldn't do, otherwise he would get KO'd, he proved me wrong. This just speaks to how great Volkanovski is. He's such a fucking goat of the sport, dude, that he can come back at 36 and beat a killer like Lopes and do it in the pocket like 20 times, dude. So the narrative shift, I guess, for people that were worried is Volk still has it. He's not in his prime anymore. This was not 2022 Volkanovski. If this was 2022 Volkanovski, Diego Lopes is not making it out of the 3rd round, and Volk isn't getting dropped once. I'm sorry, he's not getting dropped a single time. All right? But what's next for Volk? What's next for Volk? I want to see Volkanovski sail off into the sunset. The Evloev fight is great. I get it. It's a good fight. Stylistically, I actually think it's way more entertaining than Lopes versus Evloev, because I get it. Lopes took that Evloev fight on short notice and still made it somewhat competitive. It could be more competitive in the future. I get that. But Lopez's gas tank is sort of questionable. And, I think Evloev would make it a heavy grappling match. But, Lopez's takedown defense is held up. I just think Volk is more competitive against Evloev every single time. And therefore, Volk versus Evloev is going to be a more entertaining, better fight every single time. Like, there was this idea of Lopes versus Evloev is a mega fight. Now we're going to lose out on it because Lopes lost to old man boring Volk. Dude, Volkanovski versus Evloev is literally a fucking dream fight. Just stylistically, it's a dream fight. It's like a mini Islam Makhachev test, if you get what I'm saying. He's not Makhachev on the feet or the ground. He doesn't have the finishing potential, but you sort of understand what I mean. He's the brother with the Dagestani wrestling, great cardio, good physicality. And again, this is why I say this, because we're not going to see prime Volkanovski in there with Evloev, okay? We're not. We're going to see a good version of Volk, but are we even going to see a version of Volk that we saw last night? I don't think so. I mean, Volkanovski was limping around. He got stitches. He sort of hurt his eye in that fight. He got dropped a couple of times. He's going to be older. He might have a couple of injuries, a couple of bits and bops. He's only going to get older, and he's not going to get better. Like, he's definitely still a technical maestro, which is, again, why it's so impressive that he won the title at 36 years old. He will not have the same strength that he did back in his prime against Evloev. He will not have the same chin he had in the fight that he just had with Diego Lopes against Evloev. And I know Evloev has pillow hands, I get it, but I'm telling you right now, Evloev has underrated power. I can't be the only one that's seeing it. And you may say, where are the results? There are none. He's got some thudding power, dude. Okay? I think Volk beating Evloev, there's a good chance. But if he beats Evloev, will he win the next fight against Gene Silva? At some point, you know Volkanovski wants another title reign. He's saying, I want another title reign. I want to get back in there. Someone mentioned maybe September, and he said that might be too far out.
I'm sorry, mate. That ain't happening.
That he's thinking more July. So you already know if he beats Evloev, he's going to fight Gene Silva. This is only going to end in a KO. And I don't think he has the opponents lined up for him that have good enough resumes in order for him to leapfrog people like Islam Makhachev, who have beat him and have also beat other fighters, and they're going to continue to win and could beat the guy that beat Volk in Ilia Topuria. I don't know if beating Evloev is going to leapfrog Volk over the next guy on the GOAT list. I think Volk is maybe about as high as he could possibly get on the GOAT list. I'm even open to the fact that Volk could be the second greatest of all time. If you want to, you can really nitpick people's legacies. Like Jones lost to Reyes. Now, to be honest, that loss is starting to age less badly because Reyes is doing really well. But I don't know, man. Makhachev and Jones are pretty close. But listen, here's the thing. Volk can either ride off into the sunset forever, coming off of the greatest comeback in UFC history, breaking records, with his win money, his show money, the belt, the storyline, or he could risk getting beat by a guy that would never be able to beat him in his prime simply because he's slightly physically declined and it's only going to get worse. Like, could Volk beat frickin' Sean the Martian Woodson? Yes, dude. He could beat Dan Ige next easily. But he's not fighting those guys. He's fighting Evloev. And this is the thing. People say Evloev's not that good. Paddy Pimblett ain't that great, but he's getting better from fight to fight. All right? The Pimblett we saw 2 fights ago is not the Pimblett we're seeing today. And it's not the Pimblett we'll see next. He's getting better. The Evloev we saw when he lost to Arnold Allen, which he did lose, is not the Evloev that's going to fight Volk. Volk is going to fight a better version of Evloev. And I think he could win, but the chances of him losing are good enough for it to just only hurt his legacy. It will only hurt. Why go out on a loss? Why go out on a loss? I don't think he loses to Evloev. But there's a chance, and I don't know if beating Evloev really does so much for his legacy. If he beats Evloev, he's literally he's passing Islam Makhachev. Islam beat him twice, okay, whatever. Just because you beat Volk doesn't mean Ilia Topuria is over Volk. If he beats Evloev, he's past Makhachev until Makhachev wins again. All right? Like, Volk only has 2 real losses in his career. The loss to Makhachev that he had at 294 was when it was statistically permissible for him to lose. So that doesn't really count. And then the other one is a really good loss because he had a close fight with Makhachev. And then he got knocked out by Topuria. But that's Topuria, man. That's the future go to the sport, man. But yeah, I think Volkanovski should hang him up. This is a perfect storybook ending. If he wants to continue, I'm not going to be like that afraid of him losing because it is a guy that he can beat. But you sort of get my point. Let's get on to what's next for Diego Lopes. Was there a narrative shift? Honestly, not really. Not a big narrative shift. I think that, honestly, his tool bag is looking, if anything, less deep than we thought it may have been going into this fight. But then again, that's just what Volk does to people. Lopes really didn't have anything for Volkanovski out of power alone, okay? But you already know, Guadalajara, Mexico. That's what we're doing for Diego Lopes and Yair Rodriguez. I was really dreading that card. The Guadalajara card. The cursed Guadalajara, Mexico card. With Yair Rodriguez, inching his way towards a title shot. And them doing a Diego Lopes title fight. Fuck that. I'm so happy we're not going to see that. But they can still fight on the card. They can just fight on the undercard. All right. This is the fight to make Guadalajara, Mexico. You already know. Paddy Pimblett. He's basically been bullying people in the retirement home. Bobby Green, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler. And they are still trying to give Paddy Pimblett the easiest road to the title in UFC history. If they give him Justin Gaethje, that is. But Paddy looked really good. His striking looked good. The Sweet Pea Special looked good. He did it better than Oliveira. He did it better than Poirier. He fought an older version of Chandler that was being patient like a fool. Chandler needs to fight like an ogre. He's handicapped when he's fighting patient. But Paddy's obviously improved. And to finish Michael Chandler, who is pretty good on the ground, I mean, that's really impressive. So I hope that they give him somebody that's actually good. And I hope that person is Charles Oliveira or just somebody that's well-rounded at the top. Oliveira, Arman, hell, even Dan Hooker, who's a menace, all right, who's okay with his grappling. Just somebody in their prime. Actually, Dan Hooker's too old. It's got to be someone under the age of Dan Hooker, whatever age he is. He might be the same age as Oliveira, but someone with more durability than Dan. Dan Hooker's got the durability of a 38-year-old, so... But then again, Dan Hooker's super tough. He can still go to war these days. Maybe that was just a blip in his career where it seemed like he lost his chin. But narrative shift on Paddy. He's the real deal. His striking, his boxing is improving. His boxing defense is still not good. And again, Chandler just straight up didn't test it at all because he just straight up did not throw punches at Paddy Pimblett moving forward. Outside of 2 moments in this entire fight, Chandler was just on the back foot, waiting and waiting, doing fuck all on the feet. So... he never really went after it. But Pimblett, you cannot deny, is legit. He's elite, and he's in his prime right now. I just need to see him against somebody like Charles Oliveira. So let's make that fight. And for Chandler, let's do McGregor. I know McGregor, he's trying to save Ireland right now. And if he never comes back, I respect it. But, you know, if he does come back, this is the fight to make. And you know what? I actually think that Chandler would lose to McGregor now. I've changed my pick. McGregor may be washed up. I get it. But Chandler's IQ has gotten even worse. I didn't think it was possible. But his IQ has gotten even worse over the years. Because at least he used to actually go out there and slug for the fences. And, you know, to be fair, we fans sort of misconstrued that and started saying that was bad IQ, but that was actually Michael Chandler at his best in hindsight, if you think about it. That's actually what Michael Chandler is supposed to do, is fight like that, because technically he doesn't really have a lot of tools on the feet other than big overhands and clubbing hooks. So now that he's fighting like patient Michael Chandler, which completely handicaps his whole game, which is him being like a really dangerous physical slugger. Now that he's just a guy that's just waiting to get pieced up on the feet, I think this is the perfect matchup for McGregor. And Michael Chandler, he could beat up McGregor on the ground 100%. And he could, one calf kick could change it all. You already know one calf kick will have McGregor thinking about the yacht parked outside of the arena. But still, I just have a feeling that Chandler is so unbelievably washed. Like he's not washed physically. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's washed physically. All right? He's washed fight IQ wise. He's totally lost the plot. I think at this point, even McGregor could fuck him up. All right. Yeah, let's get on to Pitbull. We already talked about Yair Rodriguez. There was no narrative shift on Yair. But as far as Pitbull goes, the narrative going into this fight from some of the real hardcore fans was Pitbull being this unstoppable, insurmountable legend. Actually, to be fair, not many people were saying that. People were saying he's old as fuck. But the real narrative on Pitbull was that he was one of these ole Bellator guys. You know, from the O2 Arena. This is the photo of the O2 Arena. And that's where Pitbull's stomping grounds are. It's in the O2 Arena. It's in whatever arena they have out there in Dublin. Pitbull goes out there and the fans start screaming, ole, 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 ole. And the narrative shift. No narrative shift. He's the same guy. Dude, freaking Pitbull's the same guy that we love from the freaking Stinkfest Bellator fights. He's not changed at all, and for that, I love him, dude. You know, you gotta love Patricio Pitbull. He's the ole, ole, ole guy. He's the Bellator disappointing main event guy. Stinkfest guy. He's a GOAT. He's good. He's a good fighter. He is a good fighter, don't get me wrong. He's a great fighter. But he's never going to be that UFC caliber of entertainment unless he lands a big clobbering shot. Okay? Maybe back in the day he was. Back in the day, he absolutely was. Some people were saying things like, Pitbull's a dog, man. He's such a dog. Like, not really. I mean, a couple moments he was beckoning Yair on. Fair enough. But he's the ole, ole, ole guy. Stand in the center of the cage guy. and he's like... You know, Patricio Pitbull's like a short, stocky, powerful, dangerous version of Sanhagen that doesn't throw any kicks. You know what I mean? He's like a McGregor. You know McGregor, when McGregor's sort of tilting his head up and looking at his opponents like this? Like sort of finding his distance for the lead, for the freaking paw? That's Pitbull at all times, dude. He's got that same expression. That karate stance. Everyone with the fucking karate stance does the same expression. Same with Henry Cejudo. They all do this. Like they just, they start feeling themselves when they're in that karate stance. But no narrative shift. He's still the O2 Arena guy. I'd like to see him fight Bryce Mitchell, man. I think that's a good fight. It's clear that Patricio had a tough stylistic matchup, and he is definitely dangerous for Bryce. But he's older, right? This is still a tough test for him. And he's not really known for great grappling. Okay, Bryce got a lot of his takedown stuffed by Gene Silva, but Patricio Pitbull's not in his prime, and he's not Gene Silva. For Bryce Mitchell, this does seem to be the difficult matchup for him. The stocky guys with power. He had a tough fight with Ige, but at some point, he's going to have to keep fighting these guys because that's basically what the featherweight division is. The featherweight division is the division of stocky, powerful, fast people with good takedown defense. That's literally what it is. I was thinking maybe Lerone Murphy or whatever, but I have Lerone Murphy booked for another fight. If you look at the rankings, that's all it is. It's just stocky people. Maybe Aljamain Sterling would be a good fight, actually. I would love to see an Aljo fight. That'd be a great fight. But we just kind of saw an Aljamain Sterling grappling fight with Evloev. I think this is a winnable fight for both guys. But let's get on to Gene Silva. I'm going to say that the narrative shift for Gene Silva was his takedown defense and his grappling. Not only did he shuck off all the takedowns, which was pretty impressive considering we've seen him get taken down before by a striker in Charles Jourdain, but he submitted Bryce Mitchell too. So he essentially outgrappled Bryce Mitchell, one of the best grapplers in the division, which is something that we've only seen one other guy do before, which is Ilia Topuria. And Ilia Topuria, look at where he's at now. I know Bryce took down Topuria, which makes it even more impressive that Bryce couldn't have the same success against Gene Silva, even though we did get him down. But, there was a guillotine attempt. Not only did he show insane takedown defense, brick wall takedown defense, which is 100% proven at this point. I was thinking it may have been brick wall after the Drew Dober fight, but then again, it was Drew Dober, lightweight, heavier man skill. He's a striker. Bryce Mitchell's going to be so much slicker with his entries and all that and his technique. But no, it held up. And not only did it hold up, but as soon as he realized he could stuff the takedowns, like he just started straight up clip farming on the feet, on the ground, and he got an easy submission. He just, as soon as Bryce shot a takedown at the end of the second round, latched up an easy submission, choked out Bryce Mitchell. Who is going to beat this guy? I mean, if you think about the strikers, who's really got the ability to chin him? I mean, there aren't that many heavy hitters anymore, right? Volk is not the heaviest hitter. Lopez is a heavy hitter for sure. That's the only one that I can think of. But, Holloway, not really the heaviest hitter. He's gone, by the way. Topuria, gone. I mean, who else? Josh Emmett. He's not going to fight Josh Emmett. He's already passed the Mitchell test. He's not going to have to fight Emmett. Lerone Murphy, Arnold Allen. Like, there aren't many heavy hitters on the feet. And there aren't many guys like Max Holloway that just have granite chins that won't go away. Right? Because Holloway could have given Gene Silva a tough fight because he's got good takedown defense. It's not like Gene Silva's going to, ragdoll him or anything like that. And Holloway can go tit for tat with him, actually outstrike him on the feet just with volume alone, and he could take the punishment. Right? Because Gene Silva is still not proven to be Topuria level of boxing and power. So Holloway would actually be a really tough matchup for him, but Holloway's left the division for good. I can't think of a bad matchup for Gene Silva. This was the test that he needed to pass in order to prove to me that he can become the next champion in this division. Like, especially after what we saw last night, Diego Lopes, he's got some ways to go. I know Volk is really good. I totally get that. But Lopez's tool bag on the feet, it's really lacking. I just don't see anyone else in this division looking that dominant right now other than this guy who's straight up clip farming people. So, yeah, he's basically having an Ilia Topuria level of rise. I want to see him fight Lerone Murphy next. I was thinking maybe you could fast track him, put him up against Aljo, but that's a very similar test. Aljo's a little bit more physical than Bryce Mitchell, for sure. He may be better than Bryce Mitchell, but it's a similar matchup. Let's see him versus like a well-rounded, high-output, fast, rangy fighter that could give him some issues that's also pretty tough. I think he would beat Lerone Murphy, but it just seems to be a fight that makes sense, right? Lerone Murphy coming off of a victory in a main event over Josh Emmett. The only other fights you can make for him are, Yair's going to be fighting Lopez, and Evloev should be fighting for a title. Allen and Aljamain Sterling, that seems to be a good matchup, so I think this is a good matchup, and if he wins this, he should get himself like a number one contenders fight, because both guys are on crazy win streaks. Both guys are undefeated in the UFC as well. Lerone Murphy undefeated in general. So yeah, this is the fight to make. Two undefeated guys in the UFC. Let's make it. And let's get on to Reyes. Narrative going into the fight was that he was struggling with wild men like Yuri. Not that Reyes was coming off of 2 wins. I'm not saying the narrative on Reyes was that he was done with this photo. The photo represents Nikita Krylov being a Yuri Prohaska style of fighter insofar as that he's very wild and he hits hard, and wild fighters throw Reyes off, right? But instead what we saw was Reyes absolutely destroy Nikita Krylov with lighter man skill. When I say lighter man skill, how often do we see a step back counter, one-shot KO at light heavyweight? Not very often. That's what I mean by lighter man skill. Reyes easily beat Nikita Krylov. His power is looking better than ever, and he's on a 3-fight win streak. So narrative shift on Reyes is that he has completely turned his career around. Right before it was Jacoby, that was just one really good win. Then it was Smith, and you can't take so much away from an Anthony Smith win at this point in Smith's career, especially. Nikita Krylov is a legit win. I know that he had some ring rust, but that is a legit win. That was a big statement from Reyes. And again, the power, it's been a minute since we've seen like a brutal Reyes KO. Even the Jacoby KO wasn't like this. Jacoby was sort of out on his feet. This was brutal. You know, this was an amazing one. This was like the Weidman KO that Reyes has back in the day. So great win for Dominick Reyes. I want to see him fight Alexander Rakic next. I like that fight. And if Reyes wins that, give him a number 1 contenders fight. I don't want to give him a number 1 contenders fight now because I think that should be fought out between Yuri and Carlos Olberg, because we're definitely going to see the rematch with Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. And for Nikita Krylov, let's see him versus Bogdan Guskov. That's a good fight. Let's make that. And Dan Ige, narrative shift on Dan Ige, not really, but the fight to make is Steve Garcia. Dangerous matchup for both guys. I think this would be a guaranteed KO. And for Sean Woodson, I want to see him fight William Gomez. To be honest, you know, William Gomez is just, I mean, Haider Emil could be good too. Haider Emil just beat William Gomez via marauding. So either or. The reason why I want to see William Gomez is because when you give Sean Woodson your typical featherweight build fighter, it can be a bit stinky because they have such a hard time hitting Woodson, but Woodson kind of respects the stocky power, and so it can be a slow fight. William Gomez is the last guy to really throw down, to be honest, although we saw a little bit of it against Haider Emil. But, you know, Gomez, he's not a total anklet like Woodson, but he has the ability to at least give him some bit of a issue at range. Sort of like a Charles Jourdain, right? But even Jourdain got made to look like a stubby fighter against Woodson. Chase Hooper, narrative shift on Chase Hooper, not really. Maybe for those that were expecting him to finally be at that ranking level, he's not there yet. So we're going to have to pump the brakes just a little bit because he couldn't finish Jim Miller. But let's see him fight Firas Yam. That's a good fight. He called out Firas. Firas is close to the rankings. He's a young gun. That's what Chase Hooper is asking for. So that's a good fight. And for Jim Miller, I think he should ride off into the sunset. I mean, why not? It's not like he took a lot of damage. I don't mind him fighting again, but I mean, at this point, like, what's Jim Miller got to prove? He fought on UFC 300. He has the record for the most UFC wins in UFC history. Like, come on, bro. What else are you going to do in the UFC? Marco Tulio. Marco Tulio, narrative shift. We didn't know who the hell he was. Now he's on everyone's radar. Incredibly good prospect. Good cardio. Great output. Deep tool bag on the feet with power, with speed. I mean, this guy has it all at middleweight. I want to see him fight Christian Leroy Duncan. All right. I think that's a good fight. Christian Leroy Duncan is sort of like Jeff Neal insofar as sometimes he's really entertaining in quick bursts. For Christian Leroy Duncan, it's less of the boxing, more of like the kicks and flying knees and stuff like that. And then sometimes he'll just clinch for 4 minutes for absolutely no reason. But I have a feeling that Marco Tulio isn't going to let that slide because Marco Tulio is a bit of a density maxer. And you can't just clinch with a density maxer. He's going to shuck you off, force you to fight. I think this is a matchup where Christian Leroy Duncan will be forced to throw down. And that's going to be fireworks if that happens with Marco Tulio. And for Marco Tulio, he's clearly going to destroy everyone that's like at the bottom of the barrel at middleweight. I think you have to give him somebody that's decent, that's on a bit of a win streak. Because, I mean, he's clearly showing that he's levels ahead of shitty middleweights right now, just after one fight in the UFC. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.